The flood warning came on a Tuesday. I heard it from the man at the general store in the river town 3 miles east, a hand-lettered sign in the window that said, "Flood warning, Missouri River Bend, evacuate by Wednesday dawn." And the man inside who told me the Army Corps had been watching the upstream gauge for a week, and that the water was coming, and that anyone camped along the Bend Road needed to be gone by morning. I went back to my camp at the Bend, and I did not pack. I want to be honest about why. It was not bravado. It was not that I believed the water wouldn't come, or that I was somehow exempt from its arriving. It was that I had been at this particular bend of the Missouri River for 3 days because of a photograph, and I was not ready to leave the photograph yet. And leaving the bend would be leaving the photograph, and I was not ready. The photograph was from Daniel. He had sent it in February, 6 weeks after he left St. Louis and 5 weeks before his letters stopped. It was a black and white image of a river bend in winter, the water dark and slow between its ice-edged banks, the trees bare and doubled in the reflection, a low gray sky sitting on the water. He had written on the back, "The Missouri at the bend south of St. Joseph. The water is the color of old pewter. I think about you when the light does this. D." I had read that card so many times the writing had gone soft at the folds. I had been carrying it since March. I had been carrying it and looking for him since May, stopping at river camps and levee stations and general stores in river towns, asking after a man with a camera. A quiet man, I said, dark hair, carried a Graflex. Some people remembered someone who might have been him. Most didn't. The photograph showed this bend. I had recognized it 3 days ago from the road, the specific curve of the water, the tree line, the shape of the far bank. I had pulled over and gotten out of the truck and stood at the bank and looked at it. And it had been the closest I had felt to Daniel in 4 months, which was a strange thing to say about a river and a particular piece of light. But it was true, and I was not ready to leave it. So I did not pack on Tuesday evening. I ate the last of the bread I had, and I sat at my camp and looked at the river in the dark and listened to it move. And I was still there on Wednesday morning when I heard footsteps on the bank road behind me. He stopped about 20 feet away. He was a large man in Army Corps work clothes, broad through the shoulders, a brown work cap, pale green eyes the color of the river in certain lights, and he was looking at my camp with the expression of a man who has come to perform a practical function and has found something unexpected requiring a different approach. "Ma'am," he said, "there's a flood warning on this section. Corps issued it yesterday. The Bend Road was supposed to be clear by dawn." "I know," I said. He looked at my camp, the small tent, the cooking setup, the truck on the road above. "Are you having trouble moving? Truck trouble or—" "No trouble," I said. "I'm not leaving yet." He was quiet for a moment. He had the quality of a man accustomed to rivers, which meant he was accustomed to things that didn't do what you wanted them to do when you wanted them to do it. And he had learned that patience was more effective than force. "The water's coming," he said. "We've been watching the upstream gauge for a week. It'll reach this bend by Thursday morning," I said. "Maybe Friday if the upstream rain stops." "I know. I've been watching the gauge board at the general store." He looked at me, the pale green eyes reading the situation with the attention of a man who reads situations carefully. "So you know the water's coming," he said, "and you're staying anyway." "Not forever," I said. "Just not yet." Another pause. He took off his brown work cap and turned it in his hands once and put it back on. "Can I ask why?" I looked at the river, at the specific bend of it, the way the bank curved south and the tree line doubled in the water. In February, that image had held ice at the edges. Now it was August, and the water was low and green-brown and moving with the patient weight of a river that has been running for longer than anyone watching it has been alive. "My husband was here," I said, "in February. He photographed this bend." I did not take out the photograph. "I'm looking for him. I haven't found him yet." Cass was quiet for a long time. The river moved. A heron crossed the water low and unhurried. "How long have you been looking?" he said. "Since May," I said. 4 months. He sat down on a piece of driftwood at the bank edge without asking if that was all right, which I appreciated, because asking would have required me to decide. He looked at the water. "What's his name?" he said. "Daniel Voss," I said. "He was a photographer. He left St. Louis in January to document the river road. His letters stopped in March." "Where was the last one from?" "A camp near St. Joseph," I said. "A postcard."
Cass was quiet. He had the quality of a man who does not fill silences with sounds. I had spent 4 months talking to people who filled silences with sounds, with suggestions, with opinions, with the particular uncomfortable helpfulness of people who want the situation resolved so they can stop feeling awkward about it. He just sat on the driftwood and looked at the water. "I've worked this section since 1933, he said finally. "I know most of the camps and the people who run through them." He paused. "I don't know a Daniel Voss, but I can ask. There are men on the crew who've been here longer than me." I looked at him. "You don't have to do that," I said. "I know," he said. "I'm going to." He came back that afternoon. He had asked the crew, 12 men, various histories on the river, and none of them knew the name Daniel Voss or recognized the description I had given Cass that morning, which he had written in a small notebook and carried to each man. He told me this directly, without softening it, which was what I needed. "There's a man at the St. Joseph levee office who keeps records of the camp registrations," he said. "River campers had to register for a stretch in early 1935 because of some Army Corps access issues. If your husband registered at any of the official camps, his name would be in those books." I looked at him. "Do you know him? The man at the office?" "His name is Briggs," Cass said. "I can call ahead." He used the telephone at the general store in town. I sat outside on the step. He came out 20 minutes later and sat beside me on the step. "Briggs pulled the January, March 1935 registrations," he said. "There's a Daniel Voss registered at the Becker's Bend camp on February 14th, left February 19th. He paused. "No forward registration after that." February 14th. The date on the back of the photograph. The Missouri at the bend south of St. Joseph. He had been here. He had stood at this water and taken this photograph and sent it to me, and 5 weeks later had stopped writing. I sat on the step and looked at the Rivertown Main Street, the general store, the closed hardware, the feed store, 2 trucks parked at angles, and held the information and did not cry, which took some effort, not because I was devastated, but because the information was real in a way that the absence of information had not been. Real meant something had happened. Real meant there was a fact somewhere that I did not yet have. "Thank you," I said. "There's more," he said. He said it carefully, the way you say things that require a person to be ready. Briggs found a notation in the March 1935 camp log. A man matching the description was reported to the county sheriff's office in March. He was found at a camp east of here, ill, river fever. He paused. He was taken to the hospital in St. Joseph. I looked at the street. "Briggs doesn't have discharge records," Cass said. "That would be at the hospital. But he was alive in March, Iris. He was at a hospital in March." I had not told him my name. He had learned it from the camp registration card I had filled out at the Bend Road checkpoint on Sunday. I did not point this out. I just sat with the information, alive in March, hospital in St. Joseph, and let it be what it was, which was not the end and not the answer, but something. "The hospital is an hour north," Cass said. "I can drive you tomorrow, after I finish the morning gauge checks." I looked at him. He was sitting beside me on the general store step with his brown work cap on his knee and his pale green eyes on the street and the matter-of-fact solidity of a man who has said what he is going to do and does not need a response to be sure of it. "You don't have to do any of this," I said. It was the second time I had said it. "I know," he said. It was the second time he had said that too. That evening I ate supper with the levee crew at their camp a mile up the road,
8 men around a fire, beans and cornbread and coffee, a man named Gruber with a harmonica who played something slow and Missouri in the cooling evening. Cass sat beside me and did not perform the sitting beside me, which is to say, he did not make it a thing. He talked to the men, and I talked to the men, and the river made its sound in the dark, and the harmonica played, and I thought about February, and a bend in the winter river, and a man who had written, "I think about you when the light does this."
Before I went back to my camp, Cass said, "You should move up the bank tonight. Not off the bend, just up. The water won't come before Thursday, but the bank gets soft in the rain and your tent is too close to the edge."
"All right," I said. "I'll help you move it before the morning gauges," he said. He was there at 5:30, which was before dawn and before I had expected him. He helped me move the tent 20 feet up the bank without making a production of the helping. We did it quietly in the dark, with the river moving below us and the sky beginning to separate from the water at the horizon. When it was done, he stood for a moment looking at the bend in the early light. "It's a good bend," he said. He knew it was, I said. I meant Daniel. Cass understood. "Did he find a lot of good things?" Cass said. "On the road?"
I thought about it.
"He was good at finding them," I said. "He had the patience for it. He could wait for the light to do a thing, and then he'd get it exactly right." Cass nodded. He was still looking at the water. "Some people have that," he said. "The patience for the right moment." We drove to St. Joseph on Thursday morning. The hospital records office was in a brick building on Frederick Avenue, and the woman who ran it had been there since 1928 and knew her records the way the levee men knew the river, by character and history, not just by the numbers. She found Daniel Voss in the March 1935 admissions. River fever, admitted March 9th. Discharged March 31st. The discharge record showed an address in Kansas City, a boarding house on Troost Avenue.
He had been discharged. He had gone to Kansas City. He was not at the river. He was not in a grave somewhere along the bank road. He had gotten sick and gotten well and gone to Kansas City, and for reasons I did not yet understand, he had not written. I stood in the hospital records office with that information, and Cass stood beside me, and the woman who ran the office gave me the Troost Avenue address written on a piece of paper in her careful hand, and said she was sorry it had taken so long to find, and I thanked her, and we walked out into the Frederick Avenue morning. I stood on the sidewalk. "Kansas City," I said. "4 hours south," Cass said. I looked at the street, at the brick buildings and the trees and the Missouri sky above them, high and blue and nothing like what I had been imagining for 4 months. He had gotten sick. He had recovered. He was in Kansas City. The mystery that had been swallowing me since March was a man in a boarding house on Troost Avenue who had either stopped writing for a reason I did not yet know, or had been writing to an address I had vacated when I left St. Louis in May. The second possibility arrived with the specific quality of things that are obvious in retrospect. I had left St. Louis in May. I had not arranged for my letters to be forwarded. I had sent him my route in a letter in April before I left, but I had not been certain he was alive to receive it. I sat down on the hospital steps. Cass sat beside me. He did not say anything. He had a quality I had been noticing for 3 days of not filling the silences that needed to stay silent. After a while, I said, "I need to go to Kansas City." "I know," he said. "He might be there," I said. "He might have letters I never received. He might—" I stopped. The possibilities were too many to say aloud. "He might," Cass said. I looked at the address on the piece of paper. I looked at the street. I thought about the bend in the river and the photograph, and I think about you when the light does this, and 4 months of a road that had finally led somewhere real. I also thought about 5:30 in the morning, and a man helping move a tent 20 feet up the bank without making a production of the helping. About 12 levee men and a harmonica and a fire. About pale green eyes the color of the Missouri in certain lights. I looked at Cass beside me on the hospital steps.
I don't know what I'm going to find in Kansas City, I said. No, he said. He might be there, and it might be... I stopped again. It might be anything, Cass said. Not unkindly, just true. I folded the paper with the Troost Avenue address and put it in my satchel with the photograph. You should go back, I said. The flood gauges. I've got another hour, he said. We sat on the hospital steps in the St. Joseph morning, and the river was somewhere nearby, out of sight but not out of hearing if you knew how to listen for it, which Cass did, and which I was beginning to learn. Whatever you find in Kansas City, he said finally, you'll know something you don't know now. That's better than not knowing. Is it? I said. He thought about it honestly. Yes, he said. Not always easier, but better. I drove to Kansas City the following morning. Cass drove me as far as the county line, which was not on his way anywhere, and which he did not mention. At the county line, he stopped and I got out, and we stood at the road junction in the early morning. The bend is going to flood Thursday, he said. I know, I said. By Friday it'll be clear again, he said. The water comes and goes fast at that section. He looked at the road south. If you need to come back through. He did not finish the sentence. I might need to come back through, I said. He looked at me with the pale green eyes in the morning light. Then come back through, he said. I drove south. I drove through the Missouri morning with the Troost Avenue address in my satchel, and the photograph and 4 months of road behind me, and something I could not name ahead of me. What I found in Kansas City is the kind of thing that takes longer to say than this story has time for. Daniel had been at the boarding house on Troost Avenue since April. He had written me 12 letters to the St. Louis address. He had not known I was looking for him. He had been ill longer than the hospital record showed, a relapse in April that had kept him in the Kansas City rooming house through the summer, tended by the boarding house owner and her daughter, and unable to travel. He had stopped writing in March not because something had happened to him, but because he believed, from the silence, that something had happened to me. We found each other on a Thursday morning in a boarding house on Troost Avenue. It was not what I had imagined, and it was everything I had been driving toward, and it was complicated in the way that 4 months apart and the specific shape of fear makes things complicated, and it took time, more time than this story covers, to become the ordinary thing it eventually became. But that is a different story. This story is about the river bend and 3 days of waiting and a man in Army Corps work clothes who sat on a driftwood log without asking if that was all right, and looked at the water and did not fill the silence. I came back through St. Joseph in October, when the river had dropped and the Bend Road was open again, and the cottonwoods along the bank had gone gold the way they do in October, which is the best thing they do. Cass was at the levee station when I drove past. He saw the truck and came to the road, and I rolled down the window. You found him, he said. He could tell from something in my face. I found him, I said. He's going to be all right. Cass nodded once. He put his hands in his work trouser pockets and looked at the road. Good, he said. That's good. I looked at the bend visible through the cottonwoods, at the water going its October color, darker than August, slower, at the levee road and the work camp beyond it, at this man who had stayed at a flood-warning river bend because he could not leave a woman alone there, and had spent 3 days finding the thing I had been unable to find in 4 months, and had driven me to the county line without finishing his sentence. Cass, I said. He looked at me. Thank you, I said, for the bend, for Briggs, for the hospital. You would have found it, he said. Maybe, I said. It would have taken longer. He looked at the water through the cottonwoods. The bend's good in October, he said. Better than August. I know, I said. I wanted to see it. He looked back at me. Something in his expression that was not quite a question and not quite a statement, but the specific quality of a man who is not going to say the thing he is thinking because the situation does not permit it, and who has made peace with that. I had not made peace with it. I want to be honest about that. I had found Daniel, and Daniel was going to be all right, and that was what I had been driving toward for 4 months. And it was real, and it was good. And Cass Marlowe was standing on the levee road in October, with his pale green eyes and his brown work cap, and his 3 days of sitting beside me without asking me to be anywhere other than where I was. And I was in a truck with the window down at the bend of the Missouri River, and there were things I did not say that cost me something not to say. I drove north. I watched the bend disappear in the mirror as the road curved away from it. Some things stay at the bend when you leave. The river holds them, the light on the water, the photograph, the 5:30 morning and the tent moved 20 feet up the bank, the heron crossing low, the harmonica, the piece of paper with the Troost Avenue address in a careful hand, and a man sitting on driftwood not filling a silence, looking at the water with the patience of someone who has learned that rivers are patient, and that patience is what keeps people alive around them. I think about the bend when the light does this. I think Daniel would understand.